Okay, so it's just shortly after 6. I'm going to turn off the fan here. Just before we started, I set off the smoke detector. That was great. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Cook Along. This is our final event in the webinar series during October is Plentiful. So thanks for joining us. My name is Mary Jane Philp, and I'm co-hosting tonight with Jude Larkin, and we're part of the Plentiful team at 350 Kingston, along with Judy Bierma, Sarah Gordon, Claudette Richardson, and Bob McInnes. Several hundred years ago, my ancestors came to this part of the world from Europe. They made their homes in towns that had been established on Indigenous lands in what we now call Ontario and Nova Scotia. I continue to learn about the relationships between settlers and Indigenous people, and am profoundly disturbed by the inequities and injustices suffered by the original peoples of this land. Our collective awareness is growing, however, and action to address these wrongs must follow. I am hopeful for that, and in that spirit acknowledge that we are meeting tonight on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat, and we thank these nations for their care and stewardship. So during this plentiful month of October, I have been relearning how to cook. Sure, I've made vegetarian meals in the past, but I am so much more aware now of the issues associated with meat and dairy products. I've had to rethink the use of many basic ingredients, old standby recipes, and many processed foods. So tonight we will cook along with an experienced chef and create a meal that I think will become a new favorite. During the webinar, you can ask questions as we go, or you can put your questions in the chat at the end, and Jude will handle them at that point. That's at the bottom of your screen. Tonight's presentation will be about an hour and a half. The reason for that is so that we can complete the meal and you can enjoy it tonight. So if we are recording this session, as you probably saw, and you will be able to find the link on the 350 Kingston website to watch again or to share. It's now my pleasure to introduce Rad. Now, Rad, I don't know your last name. I had Christina's information here, but what is your last name? Uh-oh, we've lost you. Oh, shucks. I can't hear.
My last name is Cowan.
Cowan. Okay, Radford Cowan. Hi, Rad. Rad is part of the Knifey Spooney team. They are local plant-based caterers born out of a deep desire to affect the course of climate change and educate people about the benefits and joys of plant-based eating. They are grounded in social justice and use humor and accessibility to share their knowledge and skills. So welcome, Rad. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. This is right up our alleyway. We both love cooking classes so much, and just getting to share the love of food and connection with people in a very universal sort of sense. So today we will be making Khoa Soi. This is a dish that my partner Christina introduced to me. It is a dish from Thailand and is a very wonderful, spicy, fun sort of dish. It's got soft, nice hand-cut noodles in it, crunchy noodles, all kinds of different fun textures and flavors to play with. So I hope that you love it as much as I do. It easily became my favorite meal. And I would say pretty consistent. Usually I'll go through waves of favorite dishes, but this one takes the cake. So to get started, I'm just going to show you what my station is set up like right now, and what vegetables I have out. So on the note of environmentalism and the impact of food and our dietary choices, I like to always cook in a manner of what is in my fridge and what is going bad in my fridge and what can I use to put into this. So this and all forms of cooking for me are very loose. I have a hard time following recipes and just kind of go with my heart. So I'd like to show you into my heart, which is like the inside of our fridge, and see what we're gonna use before we lose it. So your ingredient list is probably the same as mine. But if you have anything in your fridge that's going bad too, and you feel like that might work to put in this, it's kind of like a soupy base. So go for it. And if you're not too sure, ask me and I'll guide you as best I can too. So in our fridge today we have a cabbage, part of a cabbage that's on its way out. So I'm just gonna clean this up and huck some of that in there. That'll be wonderful. We have these little bok choys here as well. These are wonderful. We made this dish last week for ourselves because I'm constantly eating it. So we had some of these on the go, but they're getting a little wilty, so it'll be great to add them into the broth as well. We have some cilantro here, some green onions. I have some garlic, ginger. We also use a lot of these Thai red chilies in our cooking, if you can see this here. So I'm gonna add one of those in. If you are not so thrilled about spice, feel free to leave it out. That being said, I'm gonna go spicy. We also have some coconut milk, which we'll add to our broth at the end. I have here a red curry paste, and depending on your dietary choices, we specifically look for a red curry paste that doesn't contain shrimp or fish sauce in it. So this one is the one that we found, and um, for size or context, I guess this is the size of coconut milk compared to this giant tub of red curry paste. So I also have here some organic blue agave syrup. The recipe calls for sweetener, but whatever you have in your house, whatever your sweetener of choice is, you can do that. It's only a little bit of it anyways, so whatever works for you, follow your heart on that one. All right. So we've also tacked on a little secret bonus recipe that we like to use in making this dish as well. This is a vegan fish sauce that we're making. So I believe you have the recipe for it, and we're just gonna get started on that. We use this in place of actual fish sauce in our recipe. It's relatively simple to make, and really tasty, and adds an extra layer of depth of flavor into the dish. So we're gonna start with, and then I guess also make this according to your sizes at home. If you're one person cooking on your own, it won't go bad. But do you really want 4 cups or close to that, or 2 cups of fish sauce in your house? So choose accordingly to what you think you might use. For us, we're gonna go through and use 4 cups of water, 1/4 cup soy sauce. We actually use Bragg's liquid aminos. One here is just a healthier option for us personally. So this is what we've switched to. So we'll start by measuring out our ingredients, and then we'll put them in a pot and add them to the stove. So if you're cooking along with me, feel free to do what you need to get to this place. Have in the back here some dried seaweed that we're adding as well, and some dried shiitake mushrooms here too. Both picked up from the one of the Asian markets that we have downtown. So
Brad, did you say that you're using dried kombu or the wakame?
This one is kombu.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And also, why does it have to be, it says a 4 by 8 inch sheet. Can you just get flakes? It comes in flakes too.
You can. This one, just for the smoothness of the sauce, we're using this sheet, and then we'll remove it. So if it's in flakes, this is a lot more concentrated of a flavor, and it will be able to just pluck it out of our sauce. So we won't have to strain our sauce, and we won't have a bunch of little bits.
Oh,
Yeah.
losing you.
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Can't
No.
hear? Okay.
Okay, now, okay, because I couldn't find something that's, I couldn't find that. I was looking for combo. I was at one of the Asian markets. So ultimately, I'm just going to use a prepared fish sauce. But for future reference, I just, I'm not sure. I found it a confusing experience trying to find the right seaweed. And then the woman showed me it's kelp, actually, because it came in a sheet like that. So I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Sorry, it just cut out at that last part that you
Okay,
said.
so
What
she
did they show you?
a package of kelp because it came, I mean,
Okay.
seaweed, because it came in a sheet form.
Yeah, yeah. I think that would have been fine as well. Some of them you just have to look closely. The one that I have here isn't a good example, but some of them come very white. You can
Oh,
see a lot of white all over the seaweed. So if you do see that, just make sure you rinse it off because it's definitely saltier.
salt, yeah. Okay, thanks.
All right. So I'm just gonna show you my stove here as well that we have set up. So I have on here our fish sauce. In the
Rad,
corner
I can't
here.
hear you. Sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, must be when you move away.
Okay. In the back corner as well, I have on a pot of water to boil, and that will be for our noodles that we're going to be cooking today. And then at the front here, I have a heavy bottomed cast iron pot that we're going to be using to saute our tofu and some of our vegetables in as well to make our broth. So again, if you're cooking along, feel free to get these pots ready and set up on your stoves and get your fish sauce on and ready to reduce. All right, so I have my, we're good?
Sorry, just wondering, Rad, if there's any absolute no-goes with the vegetables that you find in your fridge. I mean, I've got some, not very much of a head of radicchio and also a couple of red and yellow peppers.
Fun.
mean-
I would say go for it. So the other part of this dish that's really nice is the top part. So we like to garnish ours often with bean sprouts
Yeah.
from the market, and radicchio would be lovely on top of there, tossed in with some bean sprouts. So I wouldn't necessarily put it in the broth, but oh yeah, that'll be beautiful. That'll
Okay.
make for a really nice dish.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
So if everyone is ready and willing, we can start cutting our vegetables now. So I'm gonna start cutting my bok choy first, and that will be going in. You can either sear it in a cast iron pan, which is what we like to do, and lay it out so that it gets nice caramelization on it. If you're feeling like you don't want to use another pan and that's too much for you tonight, you could just give it a nice little chop and we'll huck it into the soup as well and go from there. If anyone else has any questions so far, feel free to ask away.
Hi, Christina. Can you show us what you're doing? Can you hold up your bok choy so we can see how you're cutting it?
I sure can. So here is my bok choy. So it started as this sort of withery little bok choy. and I've just gone along to quarter it. So I've sliced it from the top of my shoot to my root, and then I've cut it again from the top of my shoot to my root to have this this nice little cut. So these are what I will use to sear in a cast iron pan once they're cooked, and topped with some soy sauce at the end. So that's what I'm cutting right now. As well on your list, you will have mushrooms and other vegetables that you can be cutting. So just go along and take your time with those in whatever order you find works best for you. So after I cut my bok choy, I will be moving on to cutting onions. This recipe as well says shallots, but we don't have shallots, so we're using onions. Whatever you have in your house at the time will work perfectly.
Just a question about quantities, Rad. How many of these little bok choys are you using, and how many mushrooms? Like what quantity of mushrooms? I have 8 ounces, but am I using 4, 8, what?
Yeah, I would again, that one depends on you and how many people you would like to be cooking for in this. For me personally, my bok choy is on the way out, so I'm cutting all of it. If you have a fresh container of mushrooms, I would use probably a quarter of it to a half of it if you're cooking for a lot of people, but save it for another meal, roll it into another meal, would be my suggestion.
Okay, thanks.
We'll already have that that mushroom flavor from the fish sauce that we're cooking. So don't worry if you're concerned at all about losing any of the flavor in the process. We'll still have that.
Hey, Red, where do you buy your sprouts in the market?
The sprouts that we have today, we picked up from the Asian market on Princess Street. It is close, the one closest to Metro.
Oh.
So that's where we pick ours. So I'm gonna go along as well and cut up some of this little cabbage. I'm just gonna cut off the parts to compost that have dried and gone a little funny. No need to eat those, but I will save what I can of it. Again, I'm not going to use this this whole chunk of cabbage. We love to eat tacos in our house, so I'm sure it won't go to waste. But any extra vegetables are always appreciated at home.
Could you hold up what you're cutting again? It's really great.
Yeah, this here is
Oh.
my cabbage. So this is just a small cabbage. I think we picked up from the market. It looks relatively tiny. We're just using. I used probably about a quarter of a cup to a half a cup, and I've just sliced it. I'm gonna chop it up as well.
Thanks. Yeah, it's helpful. It's helpful for you to show us what you're doing. Oh, yay.
So we have just some chopped up cabbage here. This is my chopped up bok choy that we're gonna saute. I'm just gonna move it into a bowl to get it out of the way, clear some space on my cutting board, and make sure that I can get these in and get them rinsed off really well and cleaned up. So I'm gonna get into next cutting my. So if you have a way to do this at your home with a Vitamix or a food processor, feel free to do that. But I'm feeling rustic today, so we're gonna give it a nice old hand chop. I've just pressed my garlic there to remove the skin from it. It makes it a little bit easier. And just trimming off the bottom little root as well. So again, this recipe calls for 4 cloves of garlic. If that's what you have and that's what you're happy with, you can go for that amount. If you love heavy garlic, which I do, but unfortunately we don't have more garlic to use at home right now, we'll be going with 3 cloves.
Are you
So when
chopped?
cutting my garlic, I'm just
Okay, I'm watching now. I see. Yes, thanks.
Yeah, when I go along and chop my garlic, I'm just being very careful. I like to always tell people to make a claw. My fingers are very important to me, so I always like to make this little claw here to ensure that I'm not going to ever slice my fingers, and always keep that little thumb out of the way. So as I'm slicing, my knife is running along the flat part of my fingers, never coming in close contact with my little fingertips. And then we're just gonna work with the garlic and go along and chop it, chop it, chop it. We're gonna go for a nice little mince with it here. So again, for everyone at home on my stove right now, I've turned on my pot of water to bring up to a boil. And as well, I have my seaweed sauce on and cooking down as well. Just a friendly reminder to keep checking in with those depending on how fast your stove cooks. And then next I have my ginger here, just a little chunk of ginger. So what I'm gonna do with this ginger is I'm gonna work with this spoon to pull the skin off of it. I'm just gonna peel it by running my spoon along the ginger root itself. And I'm using a spoon instead of a peeler just because the spoon takes off less of the flesh than a peeler would. If you're peeling ginger, your peeler is gonna take a lot of the flesh, the meaty part of the ginger with it. So this spoon works incredibly well, and I get to keep more of my ginger. If you have organic ginger at home, you might choose to just rinse it off and use it that way with the skin on. But you may find just for texture's sake that you like to remove it anyways. That's what we're doing.
How much ginger are you going to be using? The recipe says 2 thin slices.
So I typically will make a garlic and ginger paste out of it. If you're using slices, you're welcome to use those to simmer in it and then remove them. Or you can mince it up, which is what I'll be doing, and adding about probably 2 tablespoons worth of garlic and ginger together.
Okay, thank you.
And I've just sliced my ginger and then I've turned it the other way and I'm going along and running my knife through it again to get a nice, very tiny little mince to it. Again, keeping those fingers nice and tucked in there. Now, if you have mushrooms as well, you have options on how you'd like to slice them. It's again up to your preference. And the garlic and ginger are all right to store together. They have a similar size in cut, and that's what we're looking for in cooking, is that they'll all cook nice and evenly. So we'll add them all together at the same time. And lastly, for us, we're gonna add this little red chili now. If you don't have one, that's okay. If you feel like trying one next time, that's also fun. And that as well can go into our garlic and ginger paste here. I'm just chopping it right in.
Okay, I have a question about the chili. Are you using a dried chili or a fresh one?
I am using a fresh chili from my freezer.
Okay, and so the with the cooking, the hot of it calms down a bit.
I
And
would say so, yes. If you are looking to just use this red curry paste, it already does have some spice to it. So if you
okay,
a
and
lot of heat,
yeah.
that
Mm.
so I'm now moving on to my onion. And from here, I'm gonna cut this from shoot to root. So the shoot of my onion that shoots out of the ground and the root that goes into the ground, I'm taking off. And then with this, I'm just gonna slice it from shoot to root. Peel back this first layer of skin here. Both halves. And here you can either slice it or dissect slice. We like to eat this particular dish with chopsticks and a spoon. So if you choose to do the same, I would cut to whatever you think your skill level is of picking up onions with a chopstick. Alrighty, so I'm going to bring you over now to my pots on the stove, and we're gonna turn my one on and make sure temperature. Not quite there. We'll just finish the rest of our knife work. So the last things to be cutting will be our green onions and our cilantro for the garnishes of this dish. So for our household, it's just myself and Christina tonight. So we're just going to use one green onion, and that should be plenty for us of green onion. Probably even not the whole green onion would be still plenty of green onion. So I'm just gonna make a nice long slice down the green stem of my onion on both parts. I'm gonna cut them a little bit smaller, and then I'm gonna run my knife through to get some little slices.
So you just used the green part of the onion, not the white part?
Well, just for onions, so if you want to use the white part as well, feel free to go for that and use that. But just for us, we have two people and don't need an entire green onion's worth.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
So we use the green part just because there are two of us. We don't need an entire green onion to be cut up, so we're just using that part, saving the bottom for our next dish, whatever we have.
Thanks.
Right now, I'm just taking all of the onion, garlic, and chili that I've cut and putting it into a little ramekin. So this is what we call mise en place. This is sort of putting everything in its place before we start the cooking process, so that when we get into cooking, we don't have to go and gather and collect a bunch of things. We just have them all in one place. We have these tiny little bowls that I'm just putting our green onion and our ginger and red chili and garlic into. And next I'm gonna go along and just pick some cilantro as well for our garnish. This dish calls for pretty heavy cilantro, so you can follow that. If you're not too into it, you can use less. My partner's here holding the screen for me, and I can feel her eyes saying that that's not nearly enough cilantro. So I'm gonna add more cilantro.
Did you say that you combined the garlic, ginger, and the onions, like the white onions and the green onions? You put them all together?
I did not. The green onion I have set aside here.
Okay.
This one is the garnish for after.
Okay. Yep.
This little bowl here, although it does have some little escaped green onion,
Okay. I see. Oh, it's the, and you have the
this
chili
is
in it.
garlic, ginger, and red chili.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So again, I have my little garnish bowl here with my cilantro and green onions. I'm just gonna give them a bit of a rinse as well. And sit in some cool water and just rinse off. And then we're gonna jump over and get ready to start cooking. So for the next phase, we'll be getting our mise en place, all of our veggies that we've cut close to our stovetop, as well as our tofu, our curry paste, our coconut milk, spices, and garlic ginger. Sorry about that. So some people had mentioned they may not be using, these are the tofu that we like to use for this dish. These are fried tofu balls. Also very suitable are other types of tofu that you want to use as well. So we have made this before with an extra firm tofu. If you're going that route, you can feel free to use an air fryer if you would like a less fatty option. You can also marinate your tofu beforehand in a red curry paste, and that'll help give it a little bit more flavor as well. So depending on whichever product you're looking to use, you have many wonderful options.
Brad, where did you buy that tofu?
So this tofu we get as well from the Asian market on Princess Street. This is the one again closest to Metro.
Yeah, I was there. I asked for fried tofu, but they didn't have it that day particularly.
Oh,
Anyway,
it usually is in the back room, in a sort of fridge near all the other freezers.
oh, okay. I did. Okay. All right. I should have gone back there. Thank you.
That's all right. So my pot is nice and hot now that I'm going to be starting to saute my vegetables in. So you can start in your nice hot pot. Once it is really hot, then you would want to add your oil. You don't want to add your oil too soon into a pan to heat it up. Your oil will heat up in no time as long as your pan is hot enough. But we don't ever want our oil to smoke. Smoking oil becomes a carcinogen. So just know that you're worth more than eating that oil. If your pan is heating up and it gets too hot and starts smoking, toss the oil and start again. So my pan, and I've added my oil. Then you can add your mushrooms now. hear that nice, hopefully you can hear that nice sizzle in the background. That's a sign of a nice hot pan. That means you've waited long enough. So I've added my onions. If you have mushrooms and you're starting with those, now is the time to add those.
Type of oil you use?
So at home, if we are able to, we like to use sunflower oil. Unfortunately, it's so expensive now for us that sometimes we'll have to just use canola oils. But if we find a good sale, sunflower is always the top pick for us. Another great option would be to use coconut oil. A little coconut oil in this dish would be a wonderful addition as well.
Thank you.
I have a question about oil.
Yes.
Do you ever use avocado oil?
Avocado oil is a very nice, wonderful oil, but it's not a very good oil for cooking with. It's more of what they would refer to as a finishing oil. So if you had a salad or various sort of dishes that could use a touch of oil afterwards, it works a lot nicer on that than it does for cooking. Whereas with regard to cooking, it has a very low smoke point. So when you're heating your oil, it's going to start smoking at a lot lower of a temperature than a canola oil or
Oh, thanks.
that's when you're using that. That you can work with that if you're still looking to cook with it is to mix it with a little bit of a canola oil or sunflower oil. And that will help to sort of balance the smoke points a little bit more. So my pan was nice and hot. My onions, they've started to get some nice browning, some caramelizing on them, which is what we want. Added my tofu balls in, so I'll just give you a little shot of my pan here so you can see what's going on. So in here are my little tofu balls. Now as they're starting to get some color and cook down a little bit, I'm just gonna keep stirring it. And then I have in my hand ready to go my garlic ginger chili combination. Again, if you have a Vitamix at home and you want to make a paste out of this, this is things in our household to have on hand. It's a nice homemade garlic ginger paste. So if you have the time and the means to do so, blend it with a little bit of oil, and then that can store in your fridge for another. So I've added now my garlic ginger chili to my pot, and I hope that you're. And so this part is probably my favorite in the cooking process. Garlic chili, just warned it can get a little spicy and cause your family members upstairs to cough. Getting some nice browning on these tofu as well, which is going to add to the flavor, depth of flavor, and the richness there. Getting color on that garlic and ginger and chili is all right too. Really helps. Off now. With the seaweed in it, leave it to steep with the mushrooms in it overnight. Really help enhance that flavor. So if you have another option and you didn't jump on this adventure, feel free to use that tonight. But if you've taken this fish sauce adventure, I'm just going to use it tonight, and it'll be wonderful. And then I'll save some for tomorrow too.
Brad, could you just repeat that last part? Because I missed the first part of it.
Yes, for sure. So if you are using a different type of fish sauce, or if you'd prefer to not use this fish sauce tonight, or you haven't made this one, it's best if you steep it overnight. I will not be steeping it overnight. I'll be using it today though in my dish just for flavor. And now I'm gonna add my curry paste. So again, this is up to the user's discretion. We like a lot of curry paste, so I will add probably a good heaping tablespoon and a half. This is what I'm going for. I might even go for a bit more. I'm feeling a little sassy. There we go. And then we want this this red curry paste to coat your tofu as best it can. Coat all of your vegetables and sort of cook down from there. If you have to mash the curry paste in it. We've got the first coffer in our household is starting now. So we're just gonna add now, now that the red curry paste has been sauteed in, to show you where I'm at before I add more. So again, sort of just looks like tofu's in there. But they've started to take on some caramelizing, some nice browning. So from there, I'm gonna and I'm gonna add some water as my broth.
Could you please repeat what you're adding?
Yeah. So I added my fish sauce right there. And then I've gone on and added some cups of water as well. So I'm also using on the recipe it calls for better than bouillon. Excuse me.
Are you adding that to the onion tofu mixture?
Yeah, so I've added broth to my so there now. I have a nice little broth base here with my garlic fingers, cooked down red curry paste. And then what we're gonna do with this curry there is we're going to let this sauce come up to a boil and then reduce down maybe by a quarter or so. And that's just really going to help to concentrate the flavor and cook out our onions, further cook our garlic and ginger into that broth to make it really, really nice and flavorful.
I think I have done something wrong. I still appear to have my bok choy sitting here. Is it
That's
supposed
okay. That's
Oh.
okay. We're getting there.
Okay, okay, thanks.
So if you would like to cook your bok choy into your broth, you're more than welcome to do that. Same with your peppers. But for this dish, it's really fun because you can plate it in very elaborate ways. So we like to plate our bok choy on afterwards. The burner on the stovetop here, I've also been heating my cast iron pan. And that's what we'll be cooking our bok choy in today, is searing it in a cast iron pan, as well as that cabbage that I had as well. So we're gonna get a nice sear on that, hit it with some Bragg's liquid aminos or soy sauce, and then take it out and put it on a plate, and then we'll garnish our dish with that after. So I'm just getting ready. My pan on.
So what type of container were you using to do the initial, the onions and the tofu and so forth? Was that not in the cast iron pan?
It was in a heavy bottom saucepan.
Okay.
So
So I
this
really
is
need a cast iron pan for this next stage, right?
frying pan if you have one.
Can I use a carbon steel?
Yeah, that's fine also. Whatever pan you have, this is just our home pan. Yeah, so it's on, it's nice and hot, and we're just gonna get some caramelization on those vegetables, on the bok choy. So if they're cut into nice long slivers or wedges, you would just sort of put them on the pan. Nice caramelization in a little bit of oil, and then we'll flip them in a few minutes. How is everyone doing? Is this too fast? Or are we going at an all right pace?
It's not too fast, but if you could just sort of recap every so often what you've done.
You got it. So where we're at right now is I have my broth on for my base with my tofu. It's on here. I have it on a medium high, so that it can come up to a boil and then reduce it to enhance that flavor. Behind it here, I have my bok choy and my cabbage, and I'm just gonna give it a little shake. So I can see some of the leaves on the bok choy are starting to get browning on them, which is nice. That browning is flavor, and the natural sugars are caramelizing, which is really tasty. And then the next step we'll be going into will be pre-cooking our noodles for the Khoa Soi dish. So these are the hand-cut Korean noodles or a rice noodle, whichever noodle you ended up going with. That's the one we'll be working on next. So I have my water on my stove coming up. It's at a rolling boil right now for my noodles. I have my bok choy on and cooking, just a little bit of oil. So my pan was on and heating for quite a while, so my bok choy and cabbage are getting quite close. So I'm gonna wait on cooking my noodles just until I take that out of the pan, so I don't have too many things going on.
So I got into a bit of a thing with pans as well. I was doing everything in a fairly deep cast iron pan, but of course now I need that cast iron pan for the other thing, for the bok choy. So I'm going to flip it over into I mean, it's been cooking this whole time. Is that enough cooking, or do I continue to cook it in a new saucepan that I'm going to move it to?
For the soup base, the tofu base,
Yeah.
I would keep cooking it down. Mine is just coming up to a simmer right now. And if you have another pan, feel free to use that. We can do whatever to make it work. We'll make it work.
I'll just need an extra minute.
How long, Brad, should it simmer?
I would like to reduce it by, I would say, about a quarter. So I'd say probably, depending on how much you have, I would say probably 10 minutes to 15 minutes. So I'll probably cook my noodles first, and then take them out, and then I will add my coconut milk to my broth to cook that down.
Okay, so you didn't add any just plain water to this in addition to the bouillon?
No. So if you have bouillon, you would just add that. I just used water. It's gonna be plenty flavorful, and then that fish sauce and liquid aminos will really help with the extra flavor too. And then you don't have quite as much sodium now.
Does the fish sauce go into that broth now as well?
Yes, yes, it can, yeah. So I've just hit my bok choy and my cabbage with some liquid aminos, my soy sauce. Right here, you can see it simmering, cooking down. And that's just gonna really flavor my bok choy for when I'm putting them on top. So it won't have the flavor of the red curry necessarily. It will just have like a nice seasoning to it.
So your cast iron pan, it's just a cast iron frying pan, right?
Yes.
Thanks. This is really great, by the way. I'm not cooking along. I'm just watching.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate that you're here.
Then you're way more relaxed than we are.
Want to be in my kitchen right now. Oh my God. What a mess.
Maybe we should all get together sometime and do it together.
Before we started, I set my smoke alarm off, which was really jeepers.
I think I'm gonna need to watch this video after to make sure I'm got everything.
I always like to tell people as well, if you're ever making this afterwards and cooking it and you're like, oh, what on earth was he doing? Feel free to send us a message. And if we're able to get to it, we'd love to get back to people and be able to help guide them through that more. So never hesitate to reach out if you get into the thick of it and you're stuck. All right, so my cabbage and bok choy are off in a pan now. I've seasoned them. I have another pan going as well. I had a lot of bok choy to use up, so I have that on. But as long as everyone else feels ready, we're gonna put our pasta in now to cook it. Again, if this is going, we can work things around to make.
So what quantity of pasta are you using, Rad?
Well, I feel like in our house, like, we can never use too much. That being said, I think we'll probably use 2 of these sections of, oh, you have that one. So I would say, are you cooking for 2 or 4 people?
I'm probably only cooking for one tonight, but I mean,
One? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so I would use maybe, what would that be like? I would say
16 ounces. So should I use a quarter of it or a third of it?
I would say like a quarter of it.
Okay, got it.
Or even a third of it, really. If you make a quarter, you may have some, like if you want to use leftovers, like you could make it with leftovers in mind if you think you'll have enough broth.
Okay, but why are you've chosen a different type of noodle? Is there something special about those?
So these ones specifically, we've just these are like a Korean hand cut noodle.
Right.
So it's just maybe a little bit fancier, but it is also a wheat noodle. So probably not as healthy as a rice noodle option.
Okay.
But if you're feeling a little splurgy and wild, then this is really a fun choice of noodle to have as
Okay,
well.
good to know. All right, thank you.
This dish we try much of it because I feel like everyone in the family likes it so much.
Could you repeat what you just said?
Yeah. We like to make this dish in disgustingly large amounts because our family eats it so much. And we never get sick of it. So hopefully you find your way to love it in the same way. And do yourself a favor and make a really big batch so that you can come back to it a few times because it's always better the next day.
Thank you.
Have we come to the part where you're using turmeric?
Yes, I forgot about that part. So you just feel free to huck it into your soup base now.
Tablespoon.
And the lime zest as well?
That one we'll add at the very end. So the citrus, adding citrus, lime juice, or lemon juice, always uses when you're cooking it. So we like to add it at the end.
Okay.
So I put a pasta noodles into my pot. And then once I have to boil for So while my noodles are cooking, I'm just gonna take this little opportunity to tidy what I can around my house so that I don't get too caught up afterwards. So just taking over whatever dirty dishes that I've made to the sink and rinsing them out so nothing's too stuck on there when we go to clean it later. This part is always can be really tricky, especially I'm sure on a cooking class when you're trying to cook along with something for the first time. But hopefully if you're able to get into a routine. For anyone that's made the soy sauce as well, or the fish sauce, whatever you have left, if you have anything left, you can just put it into a little Tupperware or sealable container. Um, very dry, shelf-stable ingredients on it. So as long as it's well sealed, it should be really good indefinitely. You may just want to strain out your mushrooms and seaweed from it tomorrow once it has time to marinate in there. So hopefully your counters are all getting nicely wiped down and washed. We're putting everything away. Some things to keep out will be your soy sauce, just for extra seasoning, just to make sure that everything is tip top. Our curry paste we'll put away. We're done with that. our oil. I would assume everyone is done sauteing by now. Turmeric. Thank you for reminding me of that one.
Kind of curious about the coconut milk. When's all that happening?
Yeah, so our it's probably reduced enough now. So we have our coconut cracked open here, and I would say we're probably ready to add our coconut. So I'll just show you as best I can as well my broth and how much has been reducing.
Wow.
So I'd say probably about a quarter. And now I'll add my coconut milk into that.
Ed, mine doesn't look that liquidy. Maybe I've reduced it too much. Should I add anything?
How many cups would you say you have?
Hmm?
How many cups of broth would you say you have?
About 1 cup and a bit. I did according to the recipe. Should it have been more?
You mean the broth that you
Yeah.
add?
Yeah, let's add another cup to that.
I'm gonna have to make it.
Oh, don't worry about the bouillon. Just add water. Water will be fine.
Okay.
So you will adding the coconut milk will add more volume to that broth amount. But just for having a lot of it, having a good amount of it, I would add probably an extra cup to that. So I've added my coconut milk. I have a little bit left in this can still, and I'm just gonna rinse the can with water and then use the rest of that pulp. I'll just pour it right back into my sauce as well. But I'm not gonna waste all that good fat on there. So again, you can just, add a little bit more water here and there as you see fit. But for me, I just don't want to waste that. So my recipe will differ a little bit from yours as well. But
Should we
it's gonna
should we skim off some of that fat before we pour it in?
I wouldn't. If you're looking to for dietary reasons, you're more than welcome to. But we use the full fat in it. That's really what helps with the flavor and helping with that spiciness, making it palatable, really. That really fattiness is gonna cut that heat. Can anyone tell me about the smells that they're smelling in their house right now? No.
They're all too busy.
Yeah. Pretty yummy. Rat, are we doing 2 cans of coconut milk? I opened 2.
Yes, if you have 2 open, you can use 2. It will be much richer. If you want to save the other can and use it tomorrow in something, you're welcome to do that too. Usually when I make a very giant batch, I'll use a bunch of cans. And it just that again, that fattiness is really, really nice with it. Well, I'll show you where I'm at with this broth now. This is sort of where we're at. If I could- but it's
Yeah.
that using that coconut milk a bit more too. Out to strain my noodles. My noodles are ready, so we're gonna strain them. And then what I have ready as well is baking sheet with a little bit of oil on the baking sheet. So once my noodles are drained, I'll give them a little bit of a rinse in cold water, and then I'll lay them out on a baking sheet on some oil and just more sort of move them around so that they don't stick to one another. If you have rice noodles, as long as you're rinsing them really well under cold water, you shouldn't have an issue with sticking the same way as you will with the hand cut noodles. So just keep that in mind too. The sauce is coming along really well. I'm just gonna give it a taste now and see where mine is at. I'd encourage everyone else to, unless you already have. Taste yours as well. So from where mine is at right now, has a really wonderful heat to it. Um, I would say it has a very nice salt level to it. I'm happy with where the salt is. I won't add any more brags to mine personally. The next step in our process will be adding a little bit of sweet to it. Typically in Thailand, they will use white sugar sprinkled over top of the dish at the end with a little bit of with some white sugar at the end. We do have white sugar, so maybe we will do that. But as well, if you're doing it with a different type of sweetener, we'd mentioned before having the agave, we'll probably put a little bit of that into our broth as well, but you're welcome to sprinkle the sugar over the top after too. And then I'm just going to as well slice a couple of my limes up that I did not do earlier. I think in our case will be lemons today. So we'll get ready to add them to it as well. And I'm going to turn off my broth now. I think it's reduced enough.
Rad, did you say you turned off your broth and then you added the lime and
Yes.
and the sugar?
Yes.
How much lime? I have whatever the recipe said. That would
Yeah,
be
that'll be perfect.
okay.
Are we talking about the zest, the lime zest, or the?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
think.
great.
Yeah, so I would add the zest and the juice once the broth is turned off. So everyone's probably pretty close now. I think one more thing that I forgot along the way will be rinsing my bean sprouts that I have. They're in my fridge, so I always like to give them a nice good wash. So I'll just use the same thing I strained my noodles in.
Red, what do you use for a lime zester?
What do you want to use for a lime zester? You have different options at our house. We have these two. So one's like a microplaner. Also a really good option if you're looking to do garlic or ginger. You could also run it on one of these and it comes out very fine. And then this one's slightly larger. And then we also have somewhere as well, we have like a cheese grater. And one of those sides works really well for the zest as well.
Excellent, thank you.
So I have my bean sprouts rinsed. My noodles are rinsed as well, and they've been sort of tossed around so they're not sticking together. My broth is off with my liquids in it. Bok choy and cabbage are in a pan. Crunchy noodles are ready. So I think all of my steps are here to build a bowl. So if everyone else is ready, we can take that plunge now, and then it's time to. So I have here my pan. You can see just over on the table, I'm going to start plating them. So really, again, whatever your discretion is, whatever amount you'd like to eat, follow your heart.
piece at a time.
So I'll just show you where I'm at right now with these. I just have my start. Now as well, if you would like to do any of the sugar sprinkling, this would be a great time to do that. I'm gonna go next with my bok choy and my cabbage that I have here. Just sort of lay them on one sort of section on my noodle.
What did you put in at the very beginning? Did you put the noodles in? then-
Noodles first, yeah, noodles first and then broth.
Right.
Next, I'm gonna go with my to go on top.
What?
So just bring this bowl over to show you where I'm at right now. So my bok choy, cabbage, bean sprouts. And then we're gonna go for the traditional little sprinkle of sugar.
What does the sugar do?
Would you like to explain on that?
So Thai food is certainly known for its bringing together of all different kinds of flavors. So sweet, salty, spicy, creamy with the coconut milk. And so it goes down and balance the sour and the salt. So it's your call, but it's like the authentic Thai experience is having that little hit of sweet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and then just the Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, after the sugar, is it then the coriander, and I still have green onions chopped up and,
Yeah, right now that goes on. So that's what where I'm at.
yeah, okay.
All right. So if anyone has any more questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I won't keep you any longer from getting to enjoy this.
No, mine's looking really colorful and it's pretty hot tasting. So I think I'm going to enjoy this.
Good,
Wow.
good.
Thank you so much, Brad. Any other,
Wonderful.
anyone?
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so much.
Could
Yeah.
everyone show us what you made?
Yes.
Oh,
Beautiful. Wowie.
The noodles. Forget the
Great.
noodles.
Yeah, I'm feeding my husband now.
Wonderful. That's great.
really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud. Thank you all.
Great.
We
Have a good
Take
graduated.
care.
Yay.
Enjoy. Good night, all.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
night.
Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
Here's the heat.